So, welcome everybody. I'm Ethan Srebnick. I am representing the Dominican Students Association at City College. And today we have the wonderful, magnificent vsteeze, Dominican rapper from the Bronx.
Hey.
And so what I wanted for this conversation is, I've been reading this book called Dilla Time. It's a book discussing Jay Dilla's history before he existed into, the future, which is now. And that's kind of wanted to have this conversation with Steez to go. So we're going to discuss before there was Steez into currently now. So, and also a major point that I want to bring across for this is representation matters, because, growing up, I'm not sure about you, Steez, but I felt like, you see American television and you see a lot of just everybody's white, everyone's black, everyone's Latino, but there's no real like representation for Dominicans, especially like in the Heights. The cast had one Dominican and then the rest were just Mexican, Colombian. So it's really important for us to tell our own stories. So I want to go back, before you were born, back into your ancestry on the island Dominican Republic. So can you tell me how far back you know about your own family history?
Yeah, so actually both of my grandparents, I'm first generation, so I came here, I was born in America. My mom was born in Dominican Republic, and they're from a city, Bonao. And then my grandfather, he was from like the Campo, but he moved to Banao like a little bit, like when him and my grandmother started being together, which was when they were like 21. So she was coming from a life like, I mean, back then in what was that, probably like the 60s, they was just living like, no electricity, nothing like that. Like I made a film, actually. My undergrad film was based on having these conversations with my grandparents about what their life was like. And they talk a lot about like farming, and my grandma did a lot of domestic work. And so they didn't graduate sixth grade until they were like 21. And that's kind of like the vibe. And then my grandmother moved all her kids, which was three daughters, over to the United States. And my mom was 13 probably at the time. So she ended up going to like Newtown High School in like Queens or some shit. Wow. So, but I was born in Flushing, and that's pretty much where it started. So my mom and my aunts, they didn't really go to college or anything like that, I think. Some of them might have dabbled in community college. So then I'm the first grad and everything. So I'm also like the first grandchild, the first daughter. So it's an overwhelming position to be in, to be just like the gay old Dominican daughter of a first generation trying to go to school. It's like there's too many titles I didn't really ask for, but I got them and I'm gonna rep them.
Not for you, because like I have like a similar family history. So my great grandparents were from Higüey, which is like right in between Punta Cana and La Romana, like on the East Coast, and they were also farmers. Same thing. They didn't get much. I think they had like an elementary school education, not like that at best. Same thing with my grandmother, and they traveled. So my grandmother took her 4 children. They moved to Puerto Rico, met my step grandfather, had my youngest aunt, moved to the Bronx, then moved to Miami, then moved to Tampa. So it's a lot of traveling, and a lot of things go down when a family's traveling a lot and trying to make a better life for ourselves. So what have you learned from them?
Oh, I learned so much. Like one of the conversations that I had with my grandfather, especially because growing up, he always recorded everything. So this documentary I made was basically using all the VHS footage. We all have that person in our family, hopefully, that recorded everything on VHS. So I've converted those tapes. But I talked to him because I was like, something about this is very artistic. And I feel like Dominicans don't usually look at themselves and be like, I'm a creative person, I'm artistic, especially a Dominican dad, a grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sit there and think about himself as an artist. He don't got time for that. But I'm telling him, look at these VHS videos. These are like films. And he starts talking to me about his life. And he's like, I feel like I came here and I wanted to make a better life, but there was no moment, there was no pause, there was no way to be like, okay, let me focus on my education. Because I just always had to financially sustain the family. And so there was never room, there was never anybody else to be like, don't work, I got you. Because it's just like, that's just the way it had to be. So then my mom had me when she was like 21, and she also kind of fell into that cycle of like, young mom, like now she got to support these kids. It's like your whole focus about your life when you in motherhood, and I don't know because I'm not a mom, but transitions to like now it's like this little person's goal. So it's like the baton was just being passed and now it's in my hand. And that's the conversation I had with my grandfather where he's like, at this point, I'm just happy to be with you guys. And that's like my main thing. And that's my source of happiness. And now for you, I want you to get everything you can and don't worry about nobody else until you get everything you can for yourself. And then when you have enough to share, then you can come back and, come give us. But don't worry about nobody but yourself because that's the only way, to move ahead. So, but I mean, he says that, but it's like thinking about it, like it's not an individualistic goal. The goal of like moving to this country, and this is like a long, long marathon that is like beyond my life or your life. Like this has been something we've been working towards. So it's like for him to say just focus on yourself, it's like even when I'm focusing on myself, it's like where can I put myself in the position to better the lives of the people that came before me and put me in this place to have these opportunities that honestly they were the ones working for themselves, but they just didn't get to have it. I don't know if that answers the question, but I kind of went off a little bit.
Yeah, that was a great answer because it was definitely relatable because like, same thing, like my family was just go, go, go. Like I think my mom's the first one to actually, get her bachelor's and I think master's as well. Because it's like they and back to like your grandfather's really more appreciative of just like, being around his family.
Yeah.
I think my grandmother's similar. Like she sacrificed and been through so much that like, just seeing me or my siblings, my cousins, that really like you really see like their whole face just lights up.
Yeah, the joy in their lives, like just for you doing, because I feel for them it's a sense of like all the things that they went through, all the hardships was worth it because we were able to have these things and enjoy them. And also eventually give back to them and share these
Exactly.
things with them. So
How often do you visit the island?
I don't get to visit often. So I left for college when I was 18 because I just wanted to get away and I was just like going through a crisis. When you're a teenager and you're like, I just want to be independent. And then you go to college and you're like, damn, this is mad hard. But I was always so stubborn because my family is it's just people who get stuff done. Like, I mean, can you imagine coming to a whole country with a whole family? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's insane. I can't even imagine moving my life to another country, and it's just me. But it's like for you to, do that on minimum wage, like that's crazy. And so for me, I don't go back often, but I try to go back, but it's just like there's just not enough time. I don't know. I don't even know how they made time to do the things that they did because I just feel like being independent is just so difficult.
I feel that, but I think it also attests to like who they were. So like, even they clearly had no time because they're constantly working, but
Yeah.
they made it happen. And it's our
Mhm.
generation. It's a lot of more things are accessible to us. So it's like we kind of like over, panic about it, which is like,
Definitely.
so I think, and just try to tap into more where they were. I think that's more so
Definitely.
helps. Um, you talked about the documentary you did for your family. Would you like to speak more on that?
Yeah, I mean, that documentary I did for my bachelor's at Syracuse, because I went to school for film and we had to do a final piece. So I basically started off with a script that was like a fictional story was like a coming of age story about, just this Dominican family. Because I too also feel like there's not enough representation for Dominicans, and I feel like there's so much to talk about. Like we're so our culture is like so rich, like we're such vibrant characters, like there's so much to make stories off of. And so I just based it off my family because I was like, I know if you know, you know. If
Yeah.
you know, you know, and you know. And then so, but when I presented the script, everybody was like, yeah, this is probably not gonna work. This is way too many characters. Obviously, it's a big Dominican family. And they're
Mhm.
like, this is like logistically not possible for like a student film. And so I felt defeated and I kind of just gave up and I didn't do anything for the entire year. And then like 48 hours before the screening, I'm like, oh, I have to get everything together. Mind you, I've always had these videos because this is just archival footage of the family. So I decided to just convert these VHS tapes, take the videos I have and just juxtapose my grandfather's lens and my lens as he narrates the whole entire thing and basically tells me his experience of growing up, moving to America, and how his expectations were kind of not met. And he's just come to a point where he's just like, you know what, it's fine. Like, he's chill about it, he's happy to be around family. And that's what the film focuses on, just like the joy he experiences to be with family. Like, just try to highlight that in every kind of moment and scene along the way. But it's really just like a story of a Dominican grandfather speaking about, the American dream not working out and then passing it on to his kid, which is me. So it was really dope to do and then to see how people felt about it afterwards was really nice.
Yeah, you should definitely upload it because I saw it a while ago, but then you took it down. So
Yeah,
I knew about it, but I couldn't like come up with questions about it.
it's on my profile. It's just unlisted because for when I first presented it, my professors were like, "You should definitely submit this to film festivals." And I'm like, "Yeah." So I put it up, and then I took it down, and I put it up, and I'm like, "No, I should probably submit it." Because I guess if you want to submit it, it shouldn't already be up or something. I don't really know, but yeah, I was thinking of like just putting it up and just letting it rock. Because I love that film, and I feel like when people watch it, it means something to them too, and that's really special.
Definitely. Um, so I thought you were born and raised in the Bronx. So you said you were from Queens.
Mhm.
So go back. So go into you being from Queens, what that was like, and then going to the Bronx.
Well, when my family first moved here, obviously they didn't have a lot of money to kind of like have luxuries like everyone getting their own apartment. So it got to be the fact that, my grandparents had their three daughters. My mom was the oldest as well. She's the oldest of her siblings. And so she always had to be like a kind of a co-parent because that's how Dominicans kind of are. They're
Mhm.
like, you gotta help me take care of your kids, like the siblings. So nah, so then I was born, and then my mom was kind of like, she's 21, and they just got there, and she just finished school, so it was kind of like, okay, we'll stay here. So you could imagine it's like the two grandparents, me as a little baby, and then my two aunts and my mom living in a two-bedroom apartment. And we lived in Flushing for a little bit, and then we moved out when I was young, like maybe like two or three. We moved to the Bronx, so that's why I just say I'm from the Bronx because I like spent my entire life there. I never moved back to Queens, but I did go to kindergarten in Queens because my mom worked at a Verizon in Queens.
Mhm.
It was just easier for her to pick me up there. But yeah, I love Queens though, but definitely I'm from the BX.
All right. So my next question is, what does being from the Bronx mean to you? Because I'm pretty prideful for being from the Bronx, because birthplace of hip hop. You know what I mean? So what are your thoughts?
At first, I was like mad ashamed to be from the Bronx. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I was growing up, it was just really confusing for me. Like there was just a lot of like, in hindsight, now that I've gone through college and stuff and I've been away, I can see what it was. But it's like everyone's so angry and frustrated because they're getting the short end of the stick. Everyone is in the city. And that kind of like culture and like that kind of anxiety was one thing that I never liked. Like And I grew up like for like half of my teenage life, I was like in the projects. So it was just like too much. Like my brother still lives at that apartment we're at, and I've been at that. My mom has lived there since middle school. So I don't know. I was just always trying to get away from like the neighborhood. I was trying to get away from the people. I felt like the people were loud, and I felt like the people were ghetto, and I felt like everything was whack. And then I went to college and I went to Syracuse, and it's a PWI. It's predominantly white
Yeah.
students here. Like there's barely any people of color, there's
No
barely gay
representation.
people. And it's 15,000 kids. It's a lot of kids. Like for there barely to be any people of color. And that's when I really had a moment of like my whole world was like boggled, because I was like, we don't live in the ghetto. Like we live like where we trying to make do. Like everybody's just trying to make do. Like there's nothing wrong with where we're from. Actually, where we're from is like such a wonderful, vibrant, and rich place, and it's just affected by society kind of trying to neglect us and not
Hmm.
give us what we deserve, and then us trying to like get it by all means necessary. It's like hard. Like all of that kind of stuff is just really difficult. So I love being from the Bronx now, but I can't say that I have always loved it.
Yeah, I feel you because the Bronx with like other cities like Detroit or Chicago, Compton, that negative connotation is because it's a heavily populated Black and brown area. So it's very easy to be like, oh, it's ghetto, but people don't understand what it really is to be there, be from there, live there, because there's so much beauty in these places that people kind of throw us under the bus for the negative.
And even the people that we try to run away from, because I felt like the people were so screwed up. And I'm like, nah, these are like my people. Like these people, like these are my people. Like when I came here and I realized everybody was like trying to be on their like, I don't know, it's like such a different environment. Coming to college, like, it's just weird. Like people are like kind of robotic and like disconnected from like real world things. Like I don't know, it's just so different. And that really like was jarring for me. And so that's why I just see it in a whole different light now. Like I love the Bronx, and like there's no other place in the world that I would have wanted to have been born. Like probably not even DR, because I feel like all the Dominicans there already. So I'm like, you get the best of both worlds kind of.
So where did you go to high school, and what were your plans after that?
I went to high school in Hell's Kitchen, so it was called High School of Graphic Communication Arts. It later on became a charter school. It was honestly one of the worst public schools in Manhattan. I
Wow.
thought that going to a school in the city would be better, because it was gonna be like a school where like people just got a better education or whatever. But it's just another New York City public school system. Horrible. One college counselor for like 200 people. It was
Yeah.
insane. You know the vibes.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah, so that's pretty much how it was. But I think it's still open. It's on 40, it's like on 48th Street. It's like real close to Times Square.
Okay.
Hmm.
So what were your plans after high school? So I know like you went to Syracuse. So
Hmm.
what were your plans? Because the feeling that I get, you weren't even thinking about music at
No,
that.
I wasn't. I used to, when I was in middle school, I used to like write poems to like rap beats I found on YouTube. But I didn't think of anything of it. Like I was just doing it because I did a lot of creative stuff back then. Like I would record a lot of videos. I was predominantly a visual artist. So when I went to high school, I was focused on studying photography. It's something we did in the curriculum. Like it was part of our coursework. We did like a digital photography, conventional photography, and then in my last year I got to do video.
Okay.
And I completely killed it that year. Like I was just making a whole bunch of videos, but I was already used to making videos because I was like making videos at home. So, and that's around the time like when we was growing up, that's when like YouTube was like getting traction and everybody wanted to really be on it. And I was definitely one of those people. So when I got to explore that more, my last year of high school, I was like, I know for sure that when I go to college, I want to do film or photography. So when I got to college, I majored in film, but I did a lot of photography on the side as well. It wasn't until I heard one of my classmates, he was playing one of his songs. And I was like, yo, you made that? You recorded that? And he was like, yeah, I made the beat. I recorded the song. And I was just like, you could do that. Like, I could really take this MacBook that I have for school and start recording on it. But I was like, where am I going to get a mic? Even though I had like access to the studios on campus, I was just like, let me get a webcam mic. And that's when it was in college when I started to really be like, oh, I could record myself. Duh. I did it.
So what really got you into rapping and doing music then?
When I heard Diggable Planets, Cool Like That.
Mm-hmm.
Cool like that. Cool like that,
I'm gonna see them May 31st.
What? Where?
They're performing at Elsewhere.
Where is that? What is that?
It's Brooklyn.
Oh,
Like,
it's Brooklyn?
yeah.
It's an event?
Yeah, they're having a concert.
That's crazy. I tried to make it to, they had a show on my birthday, but I couldn't make it. I forgot what was the reason. I think I was in Atlanta. But nah, I heard this song and I saw the video. And in the video, he was rapping on stage, but he was rapping in a jazz club and everybody was sitting down watching him. And he was just like, we need to breathe, go straight out of balance. And I was like, yo, that's mad cool. Like, I thought that was so sick. Cause I was like, I've never seen like rap in that light. Like up until that point, I'm listening to like, I don't know, everybody that was like on the radio. Cause I used to listen to like all types of music. Never like only rap. I was listening to like pop and like freestyle. My mom loved freestyle music. Like my aunts love like rock music. So salsa, bachata. So when I started exploring 90s hip hop by myself was when I was like, oh, you could do this too. Like this is something you could do. So my last year of college, I was living in LA and I did a song called Berserk and it was kind of in that same sentiment, like that same vibe of Diggable Planets.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the dispensary in Los Angeles and I showed one of the guys that works there, the security guard. I was like, tell me what you think about this. Be honest. And he was like, Diggable Planets? And that's when I knew that I had to keep going because I was like, I did it. That's all I needed to hear.
So besides Diggable, do you have any other big musical influences?
Yeah, like Erica, like Lauren, any of like the female artists definitely. I know she got a lot of drama around her name, but Azalea Banks, like, yeah, regardless of who she is as a person, like her rhyming skill is crazy. And Doja Cat, like, is
Mhm.
nuts. Like, I mean, like, these people are just nuts. And then Amy Winehouse, really, for her songwriting, because I just think that she has like the most. That's the kind of songwriting I like. Like, it's very like when you read the words, they're kind of like simple to understand. She's not making you like do math to kind
Yeah.
of like follow her, but they're so deeply meaningful and profound. Like, and they're just such simple lines, but I don't know. So yeah.
Um, so you mentioned a lot of female influences. Anyone from like the gay queer community that you really are influenced by?
Mm, mm, yeah, there are a lot of people. I don't know why it's taking me a long time to think. I mean, I love Sid the Kid. I love I love Young MA. I freaking
Hmm.
love Young MA.
Hmm.
I'm like I love everything. I just love when people are so unapologetically themselves, even if it's kind of like crude and kind of like some people might find it a lot.
Yeah.
Cause I'm like, at least we know that you're being honest. Cause you're just so like you. And I don't know, anybody who exists like that in any space is like pretty dope. There was some other queer artists I heard, but I always forget their names. And they perform together usually. One is like
Patron.
Braxton, Blonde something, I don't know, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
What did you say though?
I said Kate Renata.
Yeah, Kate Renata. Yeah, I freaking love Kate Renata. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the guys. Yeah, Tony. Yes,
Tony
Tony
Braxton.
is the yes, Tony. Because I saw Tony rapping in this one video with this other girl, and I was like, they're going off right now. What the heck is this? Um, but yeah, Kate Renata, Kevin Abstract in
Yeah.
Brockhampton. I love everything he does, and I love that he does it with his homies too. I'm like, that's awesome, bruh.
So, you know, as you said earlier, like Dominicans aren't very supportive of creative um, jobs. So was your family supportive when like you started doing music and like basically were like, I want to start doing this?
Let me see. My family has always been really supportive about everything. It's just that first they're kind of like when I tell them things, like when I first told them, my aunt was like, "Your voice is not good. Like if you want somebody to do the lyrics for you, I think you should do that instead." And I was like, "What? Why?" But because people always tell me that I sound really like unamused or too nonchalant, stuff like that, or they tell me that I sound like I'm being sarcastic, which a lot of times I am being sarcastic because I'm just playing around. But nah, after that, after I showed them a couple songs, like when I did the SoundCloud stuff, my sister and my brother really liked it. And they're like close to my age. Like my sister's probably, she's not really close to my age. She's 9 years younger than me, but she's a teenager. So when they heard it, they was like, yeah, this is dope. But my family was still like irrelevant. And
Yeah.
then when East Side dropped, my mom wouldn't stop singing it. So yeah, that's how they feel about it.
I feel you because my mom basically still to this day is like on you have to be a doctor or a lawyer. You have to be a doctor or a lawyer. I'm like, okay, well, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, mommy's always like, get a city job, work for the MTA. I'm like, do you know what's happening in the MTA? She works for the MTA, but I'm like, I'm not tough enough for that.
So let's talk about what like I guess recently it was really helped you get into the spotlight. You collaborating and meeting Funky DL.
Mhm.
So for anyone who doesn't know who Funky DL is, he's a rapper producer from East London. He first signed his first major deal in '97, and in the same year he won the MOBO Award, which is basically Bryn's Merit of Black Music for his debut album, Classic Was the Day, the same year. He's toured with the likes of The Roots, Eminem, Destiny's Child, and he's also worked. What I think most people probably would know him for his collaborations with legendary Japanese producer Nujabes, and he's been working in the industry for at least 2 decades, almost three, and has a plethora of a discography.
Mhm.
So you said by chance you uploaded a video on Twitter rapping to one of his beats that September of 2020. So how did you get acquainted with Funky DL and his discography?
So when I was living in Los Angeles, I was listening to a lot of I was like intentionally listening to a lot of like 90s hip hop music. So I was trying to get acquainted with the sound because I had heard it like sometimes you always listen to these songs, but when you actively listen to something, it's like a different experience. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was more actively engaging with these tracks in a way where I was like studying them. And at one point, I heard the song "I Am" by Funky DL come on. He goes like, "I am beats, I am rhymes." And he's talking about how he does everything. And I was listening to him do it, and I'm like, "Yo, this song is fire." So I was like, "Let me see, what, like, who is this?" And then I realized that it wasn't too long ago that he dropped this and that he was still dropping stuff and that he's an active artist doing jazz hip hop. At
Mm-hmm.
that point, I'm thinking to myself, this is probably like near to obsolete because I wasn't really like knowing that. And jazz hop a couple years ago wasn't as big as it is now because everybody's listening to it. But before, because of studying and stuff like that, but before it wasn't. So now when I heard it, kept listening to more because there was so much more to go through. I haven't even heard all of his songs yet, and I listen to like a new song every day. So, yeah, and then he had a lot of instrumentals, and I was like, he is such a big artist. He's probably not even gonna notice that I rapped on this beat. So I did it, and then
So what beat was it? And then how did you guys end up linking?
the beat was called Trifling Itches. Now, mind you, when I first heard his stuff, I did message him on Instagram, but he never saw it. And that's why I felt like, okay, he's not going to pay attention to me. Because
Yeah.
I messaged him on Instagram, like, hey, I heard your music. I really like it. I was wondering how much you charge for beats. I
Yeah.
was trying to buy a beat. And he never responded to it. And I was like, I didn't expect it, but I was like, whatever. So I posted the song on Twitter, and that's when I guess he just saw it, and he was like, "Yo, this is cool." It was a cool little verse. It was just like 16 bars, and I was just in my room, like still working on my delivery because I got a message to relay through the auxiliary, and Nah, and then I was like, he saw it, he responded on Twitter, he reposted it, and I was like, yo, I love your music. I messaged you a while ago. He was like, you did? He went to look for me. He was like, I don't sell beats. I work with artists one on one. If that's something you're interested in doing, then we could. And I was like,
Right.
this is better than what I was asking for, of course.
Right.
Sign me up.
I feel that. That's dope. So that kind of, like him kind of reaching out to you and you guys building through the internet kind of reminds me of what Nujabes did with him and like, like Star, Substantial.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really feel like, Funky DL doing that with you is kind of continuing the Nujabes legacy. Because now we have a bunch of people like Pop Smoke, 808 Mellow, Pop Smoke from Brooklyn, 808 Mellow from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to see like, people can be genuine humans and connect over music. So while crafting the Lilac Pack, you were in Atlanta. So what was Atlanta like?
It was dope, but I moved there like right before the pandemic. So as I was trying to settle down after moving states from New York to Atlanta to Georgia, then it was like a matter of like, okay, now the pandemic just came and now I just lost this job that was about to have me stable. So it was just like a constant struggle. So when he had hit me up and we had connected, I had been in Atlanta for a year, and I had also been unemployed the prior summer, and I had just like started working again. And he had messaged me right in the fall, and that's when we started talking about it. But in the middle of that, I was just working so much. I was working coffee, and that's all I could really think about. It was just like trying to recover from the pandemic. I loved Atlanta so much. I wish I could have stayed. It's so sunny, so beautiful, so vibrant. The culture is great. A lot of people of color just prospering, being really successful, and it's like so lovely to see and so like heartwarming. And I wish I could have spent more time there, definitely.
That's dope. So you moved to Atlanta and then you are getting evicted from your apartment a few days before your first single East Side drops. So I was dealing with that.
It was terrible. I felt like my life was I was in shambles. Like I wanted everybody to know that I was in shambles because I was like, there's no way I'm in shambles right now. There's no way I'm in shambles. I'm about to drop a debut with a legend. How could something that I could not even imagine happening to me happen right when something I also can't imagine happening to me happen? It was like two things that I couldn't imagine happening. I was like dropping a single with somebody who has so much like success and like so much experience under their belt, and this is really important, and I've been working on it for months, and I just got kicked out of my house. Like, so I was like, and it was kind of like a sort of thing where it's like I'm not even behind on rent or nothing like that. It was like a roommate issue.
Yeah.
So it was really overwhelming for me because it felt like I'm over here trying to like pitch this project. I'm like, everybody listen to the single, but also I'm homeless. So if anybody knows where I could find an apartment, also let me know. Like it was like kind of ridiculous. It was so silly. But in hindsight, I'm glad it's over and it happened for a reason because it was just like everything. I think in a moment where you're about to go so high, you have to go like really low first. And that's basically what happened. Just had to take a real nice dip in the deep end.
A humbling experience, I would assume.
Yes. Super hot.
So you also had like a similar situation when you were filming the Lilac Pack video. So you said, because I watched your YouTube video and
Mhm.
you said you couldn't see your family. So how was that?
It was hard because the pandemic was just like so screwed. Like I was like, I want to go see my family. I can't really fly because of COVID restrictions. People were getting sick. Like you didn't know who was gonna get sick next. So I didn't get to go home for the holidays. And at that point, it was like really hard for me because I was like I've just been in this complete other state while there's a world crisis. I don't even know what the other side of this looks like, if we're gonna make it, and I can't even see my family for Christmas. Like, but on the flip, I was like working on this project with DL. So I just had to like reinvest my energy, kind of like the grief I was feeling of all the things that were kind of happening simultaneously that were kind of making me really stressed out. I had to just flip it and put it into the project. Cause I'm like, these things could really crush me right now, but I could also let this moment pass me by, and then the lilac pack wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the universe was just trying to test how bad I wanted it. Like, how bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough that you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm having a bad time, but I'm gonna push it to the side because I got something in the future that I'm working towards, and that's really important to me. And I don't know, sometimes we just have to do that in life, and I imagine that's probably how my grandparents felt. Like in those times where they were having hardships, it was like the end goal is so much greater and so much more important than what I'm going through in this moment. It's temporary. So, yeah.
Because the struggle is temporary, but the long-term goals are always going to be there as long as you stay persistent.
Definitely.
So why the lilac pack and the honey pack? Like, what do they represent for you?
The lilac pack for me is and the reason I chose the titles as well is because the lilac pack is like for lilac is like for femininity and like divinity, and I think that in that moment it was like I was just taking the mic. Like I was taking the mic and I was gonna have the attention on me, and I felt like I had to come out like with my whole heart and just like put it out there, and that's what I felt like I was doing with the lilac pack, and just um the sentiment behind that, and the songs are just like kind of like I came out swinging a little bit. I feel like I did a lot of things that I at that point I really didn't think I could do. I didn't even think I could write a second verse to a song because I hadn't at that
Yeah,
point. I wasn't writing second verses. I wasn't completing anything.
yeah, because a lot of
So
your YouTube stuff is like a minute long, and it's
yeah,
usually just a verse and two choruses, maybe.
yeah. So that's like the kind of work I was on, and it's like I had to like step up to the plate of a professional. I don't even know how to upload. At that point, I didn't even know how to upload a song. So I was like, I had to learn really quick, and it was like, and even still now, I'm severely struggling because it takes so much work that people don't
It's
even
discipline.
know. Yeah, it's discipline, like major, major. If you see anybody like even making a couple bucks off the music, like they're working really, really hard because
Yeah.
that's not easy at all. And and I learned that. And now I'm forgetting what the main question was, so I'm gonna stop.
So the honey pack, what does that
The
represent
honey
for you?
pack, yeah. So actually, I was at work and I'm thinking to myself, me and Dio kind of work on what we got basis. We don't plan too far ahead, but we have like a nice little idea about what we're looking forward in the future. But when we was doing the Lilac pack, it was kind of just like, let's just make a couple songs and see how we work together and what's our chemistry like. And the Lilac pack came out of that. And then after that, we were like, let's, deliver some more. Let's work on a couple more songs. But at that point, when we was transitioning into doing production for the Honey Pack, I was like resettling into like a new apartment, resettling into being absolutely independent, which means that I didn't have a roommate. I was like holding down an entire apartment by myself,
Hmm.
which I had not done before. And I had like a minimum wage job. So it's like, that's nearly impossible, if we're being honest. So now, when I was thinking about the honey pack, I was always at work. And I'm like, damn, I gotta think about what I'm gonna do. And I used to drink a lot of oat cortados, and I'm holding this honey pack in my hand, this literal honey pack. And I was like, boom, that's the name. And that's the vibe I was feeling. I was feeling really like, because that project is a little more like lush and summery, and honey just gave me a lot of summery vibes, and it was like really smooth. And it was something that I was just genuinely around all the time because I was always working with coffee. So that's where that name came from.
That's funny. So the Lilac Pack released on March 5th of 2021, and then the Honey Pack released July 31st of 2021.
Mhm.
So Groove is now at 751,438 streams, which is your biggest song. That's almost a quarter of a million away from a million streams.
Mhm.
That song is also the number one song for Funky DL on his Spotify.
Mhm.
Melange is about a quarter of a million streams already. So how do you feel about the success within both packs? Basically, just the Lilac Pack is already a year old. How does
Mhm.
that feel?
The lilac pack, it the lilac, so the honey pack already has surpassed in total like a million streams, and the
Mhm.
lilac pack in total has a quarter of a million streams. So for me, even that difference is like, whoa, like, cause I journal everything. So I try to manifest all this. All these numbers, I manifested all these numbers. But I told myself, like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but the honey pack is going to see triple, quadruple times whatever the lilac pack sees. And I don't know how it's going to happen. But luckily, we ended up getting playlisted for Groove and Melange, is why we're up there because playlists really, really, really help. Actually, so much.
Mm-hmm.
So when we was doing the lilac pack, I honestly, I was blown away every single day. Every single day since the moment I dropped the first song, I'm always blown away. Because even when I got 1,000 plays, I was like, 1,000 plays? Like I got 1,000 plays within the day. That had been the most I had ever done in my life so fast. So
Yeah.
every day is like a new milestone. It's like somewhere I've never been. It's not really it's an exponential feeling that it's always increasing. I haven't felt like sometimes I get a little low and doubtful, but I'm always like just so impressed by what we were able to do.
Is there any moments or memories of your success that you're really proud of? Like,
Um,
like people dancing to your songs, anything?
yeah, all of that. People, anytime people dance to it or even sing a line, like sometimes I'm hanging out with my friends and they'll be like, "No, for ya," and I'm like, "Nah, that's amazing. Like that's amazing. I can't believe that." But I think one of the craziest moments, definitely, because it also shocked DL a little bit, was when we got the Bandcamp. Bandcamp made us like the best hip hop in August.
August
One of
2021.
the best. Yeah. And for that, I was like, that's crazy. That's just crazy. We don't even know how it happened because nobody, you do like a press release for everything.
Yeah.
So you do message people before the project drops, but we hadn't reached out to Bandcamp. So that was like all just like vibes. I don't know.
People
And
just
it was
tuned
just
in.
so cool. Yeah, because when I told him, he was like, damn, that hasn't happened before. And I was like, crazy.
How does it feel to be a Latina in life? Like, do you face any obstacles?
Um, I feel like one thing for sure is like I feel like if you don't, a lot of people that don't live in New York, and I don't know if anybody else has this experience, but they don't really know like what being Dominican is, or they don't know that Dominican and Puerto Rican is separate and stuff
Hmm.
like that. and I find myself having to kind of explain my identity sometimes when I'm out of New York to people because they're like, you're kind of ambiguous. And like, that doesn't usually happen when I'm home because there's like,
People just know.
there's a million girls that look just like me, curly hair, afro, glasses. So, but I think just that part, like kind of having to like sometimes I step into a space and people are like, I can tell that they're just like trying to figure me out, and I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of weird. I guess what was the question again? I was getting distracted
How
by
does
the.
it feel being a Latina in rap?
Yeah, it's weird. It's just weird. I find myself having to sometimes explain myself, and that's why I try to like incorporate like a little like I think that one thing in particular people mentioned that they liked about group was just starting with the opening lines being in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was doing more of that kind of stuff. I don't like to have to like explain like I don't know. I don't like the process of having to like explain myself or kind of I like to just live it and do it and then let people see it. And so I think that going forward I definitely want to do more rapping in Spanish so that I can feel like
Yeah.
just make this space without having to be like I'm a Latina and rap. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna just do it. I'm gonna just do it and then people will know.
So would you do a full song in Spanish or Spanish collaborations?
I am not that good at speaking Spanish. I'm not gonna lie. It's very chopped up, but I would definitely. I've been talking to somebody that I really want him to be on the track because he has like just such a nice voice, and I think he's Dominican too. Um, but I think having other artists singing in Spanish and me just incorporating some lines would be dope. But hey, maybe in the future. Definitely. I'll do a whole verse and you ever heard Bejo? Bejo, my bad.
No.
He's from I don't actually know where he's from. Maybe from Argentina or maybe from Venezuela. I'm not really sure where he's from because he's always shooting videos everywhere. But he's a super dope artist that I like to listen to. If I could rap like him, he does like jazz hip hop is what I'm telling you.
Oh, that's wavy.
With Cooking Soul, if you ever heard that
Yeah,
producer.
yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot of work with him. So yeah, if I could rap like that in Spanish, I'd probably do it. But you gotta give me some time to
That's all good.
refine it.
So what are your thoughts on open sexuality in Dominican culture? Since it tends to be very conservative in DR, but we do
Mhm.
have artists like Tokisha who are creating a conversation. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like Dominicans can be very what's the word, like very judgmental, I think, sometimes in our culture to things that we don't understand. And I think that my family at least is not very much like that because there's other gay people in my family, and so they're kind of just already used to it, and I've never had to be like I've never been to an event with a partner and it's been like incredibly awkward.
Yeah,
But I've had Dominican partners where I go and I hang out with their family and it's like
very awkward.
very awkward. So I don't know. It's definitely like I feel like we definitely need to have more representation because I think it's just a matter of people being exposed to people that are gay and being like, oh, they're just like me, except they're gay. I think they just have to have that realization. And people can't have that though because it's like our sometimes our families are very abrasive,
Yeah,
and then it's like, but the more that you see things, the more that you get comfortable with it. But it's like the more that you conceal it, so then people can't get comfortable with it because they're never exposed to it enough to start developing that level of comfortability and understanding of what it is and realizing that it's actually nothing. So now we definitely need more queer representation on TV and everywhere we go
hmm,
for Dominicans because it's just a real thing. It's just too real.
I definitely agree with that. So Um, so what do you identify as?
I would just say queer. I'm just vibing, having a good time.
So what? Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just reading through all my questions. Yeah. So because what you were saying, I think it's very important to know other people because when you know other people, you understand yourself better. But when you understand yourself better, you can understand others.
Mhm.
That's why I kind of wanted to start this conversation because I think you're, Dominican, woman of color, queer, which is for a lot of people they can't comprehend that they came in like
Mhm.
treat people in those subcategories as human. So
Mhm.
it's really I wanted to really help bring up the conversation and people to normalize it instead of like it being taboo.
Mhm.
So as a queer woman of color, do you feel a responsibility to those that you represent?
Um, I hate to have responsibility, but I guess that we all sort of are in a way. But I hate to think of it like that because it's like I don't want to enter a space and be, oh, that's the Dominican queer artist who I don't want to be those things. I want to be that's Vanessa. She just came in here. She's also like these come as side comments and not as like my introduction.
Yeah,
Like because I feel like when you want people to get comfortable with something, I think you have to meet them at a place where you guys are already at a common ground. And that doesn't mean that I'm gonna enter a space and I'm not gonna be gay and I'm not gonna be Dominican. I'm gonna be all these things, but I'm not gonna lead with that because needless to say, I am, and that's enough. And I think that in being so unapologetically is really the way of taking responsibility. And I think that sometimes people don't see it in that way. I think that people see it as being more uh I want to say like vocal or like doing certain things that where you're kind of directly speaking to these things. I feel like my way of going about it and taking responsibility for being queer and being Dominican and also existing in these spaces is by being myself, so like incredibly so, like just being 100% me, that like these are things that are all incorporated into who I am. So it's just like representing myself well so that I know consequently these are things that I'm also representing in any space that I go to.
very well
I don't
said.
know if that answers the question, but yeah.
You're doing amazing. Um, what's your favorite thing about being Dominican?
My
Or yeah,
favorite thing is
or a
gonna be
couple things.
the food, the music, my grandma. Dominican grandmas, like, come on, they don't get no better than that. Some of them be stink. I knew a stink Dominican grandma, definitely, but oftentimes they're not really that stink, and I love them, and they always trying to feed you, and that's like amazing. Like, it's an amazing life we live, and
It
we
is
have beautiful hair, I think, which is awesome.
exactly. Um, so basically, I got like two more questions, and then I'll open up for the Q&A.
Mhm.
So, what does being Dominican mean to you?
To me, it means just being unapologetic. I think that even even just people are just like anybody who's Dominican is just very unapologetic. And I think that it's just being that way, just being like, this is who I
Oh,
am, like take it or leave it. But also in going forward, taking accountability, I think, for the things that we are, we kind of lack or we fail at in terms of supporting each other as a community. Like, having queer representation and having less like, sometimes there's like spaces you enter with a lot of Dominicans and being gay is like the thing you don't want to be in that space. And it's like, so I think just going forward, taking accountability for ourselves as people, because sometimes we have a lot of pride. And I think that's one thing that makes us like really strong, but sometimes can also set us back when we're like too stubborn. But yeah, um, I Yeah.
It's all good. You're answering these questions like I gave them to you already, so you're doing phenomenal. So this is gonna be the last question I have, and then we'll open up for a Q&A if anyone has questions. What do you have in store for the future? Like new music, business ventures, clearly school?
I'm starting graduate school back at my alma mater, Syracuse University. So I'm gonna be going to the Newhouse Public Communication School. It's one of the top communication school in the country. So I'm hoping to tap in with their network, is especially why I'm going back. Have access to like the student resources here, and I'll be working in audio arts. So I'm gonna be focused on like music industry stuff and stuff like that. And just like kind of building my label, because the Lilac Pack and the Honey Pack were both dropped under my label La Bodega, and kind of doing something that this is like future plans. It's not like anytime soon, but future long term is like bringing people to be a part of that label in kind of the way that Funky DL kind of like guided me through in a sort of mentorship style to kind
Yeah.
of construct these albums, but also building the platform for myself to further release music with other artists that I really enjoy. Um, and just am working with, so I have so many files from so many different producers right now. And I want to say names, but I don't want to say names because they're waiting on me to send them songs and I haven't sent it to them. But hopefully that I get the chance to sit down before school starts in July, I can get a couple tracks done. So while I'm in school, there's things coming out. But while I'm in school, one of the things I have to be working on is music. It's just part of the curriculum. So hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have like a entirely self-produced project is my goal.
Hey, that's what's up.
We'll see how it goes. It's gonna be part of the schoolwork, so it will be like part with the university, but I think it will be super sick.
Congrats.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you.
So now I'm gonna open up to Q&A. So if anyone on Zoom or anyone in person has any questions, just come over here. Does anybody actually have questions though? No?
I can start. I got a question.
Yes.
Okay, Vlad.
Hi. Maybe other Ethan has a question.
I'm dead.
I had earlier my Zoom cut out and I was pressed because I was watching the video. But it's all cool. I was gonna ask about how you met Funky DL, but you talked about it on Twitter. And then I was gonna ask where you were from too, and I saw Queens in the video too. So I was like, "She from Queens?" So that's sort of kind of like a funny. You don't find too many Dominicans from Queens like anymore like that. Well, what I wanted to ask was like, what's your process like now these days? Like, because you talked about you do photography too. So like, how do you get into the headspace and then start like creating?
To be honest, I've been struggling for like a year now. And that's like the scariest part about the creative process is like I can look back and be like, I did that, so I'm capable of that kind of work. But why can't I do it again right now? I can't. I can't just snap my fingers and do it again. And I think that in part it takes a lot of discipline. Like anything that you want to do seriously, you have to do it every day. And when you do it every day, you can't expect that every day you're gonna come and kill it. Because some days you're gonna suck really bad, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't show up. And I feel that oftentimes on the days where I feel like I suck really bad, I don't actually go through and show up 100%. And I've been like kind of failing myself in that way because I've just been kind of like quitting before I can get. Sometimes you have a moment in the process when you're first sitting down to do work, and like the first 30 minutes might not work out, but it might be like minute 32 that you're like, okay, now I'm snapped into it, and it takes time. But speaking of the creative process on the last couple packs, I think one thing that definitely helped me, and it's kind of sickening to say, but I had to stop doing a lot of things that is just like a guilty pleasure, like smoking. Like I had to stop smoking weed. I just had to stop. I was
Cold turkey. You don't do it no more?
No, I do. I do it all the time now, and that's part of the reason. I do it too much.
Okay.
But no, I had to stop. And at that moment it was easy because I was also like very depressed and I was like, I shouldn't be adding anything into the mix I shouldn't add more things that are gonna too many variables, you know what I'm saying? So, but one thing I did, I stopped smoking, I also stopped smoking cigarettes because I was a heavy cigarette smoker.
Sure.
I still kind of am, and that was very difficult to do. And I stopped drinking. These are just things that are kind of. But I did it in part because I really wanted to focus on this project because I was shitting my pants because I'm like, this guy is a professional. Like, I don't want to fumble this. Like, this would be crazy to fumble. So the process was definitely waking up, not doing any of those things, and literally just taking care of myself. Like before I sit at the computer and I start listening to beats, I had breakfast, I had water and tea. I enjoyed a little bit of the sun, and now I feel guilt, and my room is probably clean and I feel guilt free. There's nothing to distract me because I've touched all the basic essentials. Sometimes you can't get to the creative process because you simply haven't done something such as eat breakfast or drink water.
Yeah.
And you probably haven't realized it, but usually that's all it takes.
Self-care.
So I'm just trying to get
that's
back
amazing.
into that flow.
Yeah, you figured, you started, like, you learned yourself, so like you're going through that, and like that's always part of the process. Like you can't make anything if you feel like shit in the morning.
Yes, and there's a lot of lies that we tell ourselves as people. Sometimes we tell ourselves something is working for us, but it's really not. Like coffee, for example. A lot of us are motherfucking lying. Like coffee does not work for us. We just get more anxious, and we have to be honest. Maybe we need the tea to start the day, and that's just what it is.
You know what it'd be? I go to my dad's house sometimes, and they're just straight coffee.
Coffee.
Bro,
they have coffee for dinner. You know, Dominicans have coffee for dinner. Tu quieres un cafecito?
It's the end of the day, and they still need coffee because it'd be nutty.
I'm like, you gotta be honest with yourself. Sometimes you gotta take a real step back, and it's gonna hurt your feelings. You're gonna cry a little bit because you're gonna be like, damn, I've been lying this whole time. I can't have this coffee. I can't. That's it.
It is the same jitters.
Yeah.
I wanted to also ask, do you do like more photography and film work now, or you just Lexi?
I definitely want to get back into it. I haven't because it's like before I was kind of doing work and I was like showcasing other artists, but now since I'm like the face of my music, I'm like want to record myself, but I don't want it to look like a selfie. So I haven't really been recording anything because it's like I'm not gonna record myself and I'm not thinking about recording other people too much right now. Yeah. But I definitely want to get back into it because I used to sit down and I could like bang out and edit in like 4 hours and have a complete video. And now it's like it's just that difficulty connecting to my creative process and connecting to the flow state. So, but now since I'm starting school and it's like going to be grad school and it's going to be like more intensive and they're going to want to see like, yeah, you're talking about managing your own label, but can you actually even complete simple things like making a simple video, making like things that I feel like I'm so disconnected from at this point.
Yeah.
So just trying to work myself back into the place where I'm going to be ready to like get into the flow of like, it's not about how I feel, it's about something needs to get done and it's just a practical thing. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. So vsteeze is not performing today, but if you guys want to catch her performing May 24th, she will be opening for Mimo. I'm gonna be there because I work for the label that Mimo is signed to, so I will be there. vsteeze will be there. We also
apologize for just all the delays that I caused that it's been caught up, but definitely I'm going to perform. That's why I couldn't come here because actually the show, when you originally asked me, the show was around the same week. And I forgot that you knew Mimo. And I was talking to you as if you didn't know. And I'm like, yeah, I have a show coming up. Otherwise, I would have just told you it's the Mimo show. And then I realized when you started posting it. But then she rescheduled it like 2 times. So then it was like pushed like 2 weeks later. But it was like too late to have said something because I reserved the work dates. But anyway, yeah, I will be there May 24th, right?
Heaven Can Wait, 7:30. That's a Tuesday. All right. Anybody want to say, goodbye to vsteeze personally?
Thank you. We appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. See ya.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was dope. See ya.